Well, good morning, everybody. Good morning. I want to welcome you to Grace Evangelical Baptist Church. Those of you who are here, those of you who are with us via YouTube and Facebook and other types of social media, welcome to Grace Evangelical Baptist Church. We are beginning a new series of, this is a two-part series. Part one of today, preparing our young people for back to school. All right, back to school. I want to remind everybody that next Sunday, when we have part two of our message, we're also going to have a part whereby we're going to dedicate and anoint our young people with a divine blessing and protection as they go through the school year. So all you parents who have children who you want to be a part of this anointing celebration and service that we will have next Sunday morning, I'd like for you to bring your children and then those who want to be a part of this, parents, to let us know, and your child can participate in that. But this morning, we want to turn our attention on the subject, hope and tragedy, channeling Daniel in the age of Obama and Trayvon. Well, as you know, it's back to school for many of our children. They will be going to school tomorrow and begins another school year. But for many of us, we know that this is Earth school. So technically speaking, there has never been a recess until you depart from here from Earth school. There's a wise saying that you have heard me say over and over again. It goes like this: when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. In a cryptic way, I believe that this proverb is suggesting that as we grow in consciousness, as we evolve our awareness, different teachers appear in our lives, both angelic and human, and they provide for us and give us the guiding lessons that we must master while we are here in this domain. As youth of America prepare to return to public school, this summer has gotten the attention of many. The most talked about issue in our experience this summer has been the murder of Trayvon Martin and the trial of George Zimmerman. It is in this context that I believe that the teaching angels want us to learn a significant lesson that we must master. Trayvon Martin is a symbol of tragedy for American youth. He, no different than Emmett Till, the Scottsboro Boys. Many of you remember the 3 civil rights workers that were killed, young men that were killed in the civil rights era. James Earl Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Swernum. Men who were young boys who were lynched in Mississippi in 1964 by the Ku Klux Klan of Mississippi. We cannot forget the young children that I think it was this year who were murdered at Sandy Hook, Connecticut. Trayvon and all these other tragic youth are symbols of lost innocence. Symbols of lost innocence. As it was then, so it is now. When we on the national stage deal with the senseless loss of young life, it grips our souls, it terrorizes our minds, it paralyzes our bodies. Why? Because innocence has been lost. The death of Trayvon Martin, as other young people in the past that have died, even across this nation, where you see young people taking lives of other young people in Chicago and Little Rock and New York and Philadelphia and Atlanta. All this symbolizes, all this suggests is that our youthful hopes and dreams, the possibilities and the potential that we attach to being young, shatters in a million pieces like glass. Trayvon is a symbol of lost innocence. On the contrary, do you remember back in 2008, November, in Chicago, when this young senator who had now been elected president walked out on the national stage with his young family, beautiful wife, 2 young girls, Sasha and Malia, and he had become our 44th president, and he spoke these words to us: yes, you can. Do you remember what you felt in your heart? Do you remember how your soul was moved? Because Barack Obama is a symbol himself of dreams fulfilled. He is a symbol of hope, not just for Black Americans, but he is a symbol of hope of all Americans. Matter of fact, he's a symbol of hope for all the people of the world. That you can win. That you can win. Amen. Conservative Republicans have tried to criticize President Obama for speaking out on the Trayvon story. Liberal Americans have tried to criticize Obama for not saying enough about race. But in my opinion, as a spiritual leader in this community, President Obama has said enough. When I heard him say, Trayvon could have been me, in that statement, President Obama and Trayvon Martin became symbolically linked. Hope and tragedy. Obama, hope. Trayvon, tragedy. So here we are today, as our children are preparing themselves to start a school year, having gone through that experience of the trial of George Zimmerman and the murder of Trayvon Martin. Here our youth are today, living in the age of Obama, hope, and living in the midst of tragedy, Trayvon. The teaching angels are trying to get our attention because there is something that this generation must learn. And that something is this: how do we move forward when youthful hope and innocence is lost? Okay. Now, you know, I am a fan, a great fan of the trilogy, The Matrix. This question, how do we move forward when hope and innocence has been lost, is the question that The Matrix Part 2 raises. You remember when Neo faced the architect? He had gone to the place where he had to confront the developer of the Matrix. He had just learned a profound secret that all the others had not learned. He had learned that he was not a savior. Neo was nothing more than another means of control developed by the machine world. There were no messiahs coming to save the human race from the machines. The architect of the Matrix, who symbolizes control, program responses, an agent of control. He revealed to Neo that he only had to make a choice. Neo being no longer innocent now. His innocence had been shattered. He's no longer ignorant. But he must choose now, either to follow a program response of control by the machine world, or he had to walk by faith and hope to a new world. In other words, he had to choose between two doors. The door to the right was the door of certainty and despair. The door to the left was the door of uncertainty of a walk of faith. This represents where many of you youth are today. You have to choose between despair on one end, tragedy, and you have to choose, on the other hand, hope. And I can hear the architect saying to Neo as he was moving toward the door of hope, the quintessential human delusion, simultaneously the source of your greatest strength and your greatest weakness. So it is now. As the hope of Obama's "Yes, we can" has been tempered by the death of Trayvon Martin, our youth must choose which door are you going to go through. The door of despair, sorrow, suffering, or you're going to choose the door of hope, possibility, and faith. And I want to be very real with you. Because another great movie that I would encourage all of you to go see is After Earth with Will Smith. As the young boy had to make a choice, what is he going to do? Will Smith told his son, danger is real, but fear is a choice. It's in this context that I feel that we as parents, I as a minister, we must speak to our young people, and we must find a story of how they can negotiate the dangers of a real world with hope of a better world. It's in this context I want to go into this mythical journey found in the book of Daniel. And I want to call us we must learn to channel Daniel. That's right, we must channel Daniel. Daniel, the name Daniel means God is my judge. And when I say channel Daniel, this is what I mean. To channel Daniel is to invoke this angel, this message coming from this biblical prophet, found in Daniel chapter 1, verse 1 through 8, part 1 today. And we must invoke within our soul Daniel. Daniel is a symbol of divine will that we all possess that must come forward to be able to make critical decisions that can open the door of possibility where there seems to be none. Danger is real. Oppression is real. Death is real. Violence is real. But you don't have to be afraid. You don't have to live in fear, because fear is an illusion. And therefore I want to speak to the hearts of these young people today, who, although their innocence has been shattered by the death of someone who looks like them, I want you young people to find the power within. That even in the midst of real oppression and racism, I want you to find the power within to make a decision to open a door of possibility where it seems like there is none. Why Daniel? In the book of Daniel, a psychology, a strategy, if you will, an immortal technique is revealed that can allow so-called at-risk, disadvantaged persons to not only thrive and survive oppression, but triumph over any opponent. See, I want to be very clear to you parents when I speak to your children. I'm not trying to raise children in this ministry to get along, to be mediocre, to be mundane, to slough back and sit in the back of the class and afraid they raise their hand and feel like that to be black in America means to be second class. No. I want to raise your children to triumph over any opponent, because in the word disadvantage is the word advantage. And with proper understanding and strategy and technique, you can be a minority and still have power. Amen. Amen. I admit to you, I don't study biblical mythology or history to bolster your weak self-esteem. I want our young people to go into this world with a mental edge. I want you to understand that you can have power over your environment, no matter where it is. I want you to understand that you can have power over any obstacle, no matter what it is. I want you to understand that you can have a power over any opponent, no matter who it is. I come to make you conscious of the game. And the word game for me is an acronym for global and mental enterprise. You are a part of a game. America is a game. America is a Gnostic nation. And those who have unique and special information, knowledge, are the ones who thrive. Right. Knowledge really is power. And when you know the secrets, and when you know the truth, no matter what your situation is, where you are, who's against you, whatever the obstacle is, when you have certain information and knowledge, you can triumph and you can overcome and you can create opportunities even where there seem to be none. Daniel is a teaching angel who reveals 3 lessons that I want to share with you this morning. You all right? Let's get into it. Lesson number 1. You only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent. You only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent. Let's look at verses 1 and 2 of Daniel chapter 1. It says, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And it says, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with some of the articles of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the articles into the treasure house of his God. Now I want you to notice in verse 2, I want you to underline this verse. It says, this phrase, and the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into the hands of the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar. I want you to understand who gave Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, into the hands of Nebuchadnezzar. Who did it? The Lord. The Lord did it. So therefore, we must understand that the situation and the context in which this story takes place is not simply a political story. It's not simply a socioeconomic story where one king took over the other. This situation is of divine appointment meant God gave his children over into the hands of a pagan king. This was the work of God. Now, as much as we Afrocentric scholars like to bemoan our racism, our oppression in America, our slave experience in America, as much as we like to talk about and tout our ancestral heritage of being kings and queens in ancient Egypt and Africa, and we talk about the glory of our past, I want you to understand right now that the reason why our great people of time past went through the Middle Passage, went through slavery, went through oppression, went through segregation. The reason why we were brought to America and became second-class citizens was by divine appointment. It was by divine appointment. There's something we need to learn in our condition of slavery, segregation, and oppression that was designed to evolve us beyond our former glory, to make us better, to make us stronger, to make us smarter, to make us wiser than we have ever been before in times past. You see, you only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent. Think about that for a while. This whole game is about evolution. It's about the evolution of our consciousness. It's about the evolution of our spiritual awareness. And therefore, as Jesus came from heaven and came to earth in order that he might experience life as human and rise again and have all power, we too fell from the glory of our ancient past into the hell of America so that we too might rise up and become greater than we ever have been before. Daniel, even as a young man, understood that there had to be a divine purpose for why God allowed his chosen people to be brought into slavery. It was of the sovereign will of God. Therefore, what I'm saying is this: we must stop bemoaning labels that society puts upon us as sons and daughters of former slaves. That we must stop running from that. We must stop running from name calling like Sambo and Aunt Jemima and second-class citizens and being single parent, coming from single-parent households and born in ghettos, victims of a racist society, as definitions of who we are. Young people, listen to me. Let me tell you who you are. Even in your humble state, even in your poverty, even in your single-parent household, even in your situation in America, let me tell you who you really are. You are a spirit being having a human experience. You are a divine being. You are a child of the Most High. And you are here to give a witness of the power of God within you that can overcome any obstacle in life. Our social position is by divine appointment. This is the mentality I want you young people to go back into school with. Don't go back to school as a defeated foe. Go back to school as a person who understands that I am here in this school by divine appointment. I know the school you go to looks like a prison. It really does. I know some of your teachers have issues with various children because of their outward features. I know that there are knucklehead boys and girls in school that actually mean no good to you. But you are there. You are here for a divine purpose. And that purpose is to learn something. And what is that to learn? You only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent. The very harsh condition is designed to develop a strength in you, a power in you, something that is unknown even to you, that you have within. Therefore, by the sovereign will of God, he placed you in the most horrific context because he knows what's in you is greater than all that which is around you. Lesson 2. The more sophisticated the game, the more sophisticated the opponent. Daniel chapter 1, verse 3 through 7. It says, the king instructed Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel and some of the king's descendants and some of the nobles, young men in whom there is no blemish, but good-looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge and quick to understand, who had the ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and the literature of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily provision of the king's delicacies and of the wine which he drank, and 3 years of training for them, so that at the end of that time they might serve before the king. Now from among those sons of Israel of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Ishmael, Azariah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave names. He renamed Daniel and gave him the name of Belteshazzar. To Hananiah, Shadrach. To Mishael, Meshach. And to Azariah, the bad Negro. The Abednego. Amen. Now keep in mind, although King Nebuchadnezzar was an imperialist, a colonizer, and an enslaver, he was no fool. You can't build a great nation with ignorant, dumb, skillless people. Okay. He didn't go to Jerusalem and rob their temples of their spiritual artifacts. He didn't go to Jerusalem and sack it in order to just do it because he was playing a game. He took these Hebrew youths because he wanted to expand his kingdom and make it even greater. I want you to understand that what built America, slave labor, immigrant labor, the slave masters didn't bring you to America to kill you. They brought you to America to work. But they didn't bring any kind of worker. They brought people who were skilled. So I don't want you to think, I don't want you to be raised to believe when you look at your slave ancestors that they were without religion, that they were without skill, that they were without language and technology. Because nobody goes and capture a people for the purpose of developing that nation if they do not have some mental and physical ability that they do not have. So if you carefully read these verses, you discover something very profound, that these enslaved youths were gifted, talented, and good looking, able to possess and understand exceptionally well. The program that King Nebuchadnezzar had for them was to re-socialize them, re-spiritualize them according to his culture and religion, that is the literature and the language of the Chaldeans. Notice the socialization process. And no longer would they be studying the Bible of their own culture. They were re-socialized in the language and the literature of the Chaldeans. They were to be no longer fed specific Jewish foods, but they were to be re-socialized and be fed a diet so that they could serve in the king's court, in the king's palace. They were given the food and the drink of the Babylonians so that they might become good servants. And then thirdly, he changed their names. Many of you remember the story, you saw the movie roots. And you remember how they had this long story, this story about how they wanted to make Kunta Kinte say Toby. That's what's going on here. They changed their names. They changed their names from Hebrew names that represented their faith in God as put upon them by their parents, and they were given Babylonian names that were after the Babylonian god Baal. Here's something you got to understand. Black and people of color were not brought to America or colonized in America because we were skillless and worthless. We were brought here to work as slave labor, as a means of entertainment. Every black American, or third or more generation of immigrants in America, has been socialized into Western civilization. We are no different than Daniel. Right. We have been in America so long that, for the most part, the African part of us has merged with the American part of us. We are Americans. We are Americans. All you got to do is go back to your homeland, stay there for a minute, and you will yearn for this land. There's nothing wrong with going back to Africa. Africa is more special than you realize. We should always have an identity with Africa. But we must remember that we were brought here for a purpose, and we are Western people. We are Americans. Even though we may have a hyphenated name, African American, but we are more American than we are African. Now don't get me wrong. Racism is real. Prejudice is real in America. Oppression is still alive in America. Discrimination is active in America. But we are not leaving America, going back to Africa or nowhere else. This is our homeland. Love it or leave it. This is our country. Now we share it with other people, but young people, this is your country. This is your city. That is your school. This is your neighborhood. This is your country. This is your county. This is yours. Your mothers and fathers who came here to America shed their blood, sweat, and tears. You are just as much the rightful owners of this country as anybody else. Yes. We can adopt non-African names all we want. We can wear dashikis, nothing wrong with that. We can lock our hair, we can perm our hair. We can fantasize about going back to Africa, our homeland, but the truth is, we are not going back to nothing. We're not going back to the good old days of segregation. We're not going back to the days America will never be white again, all white again, never been all white in the first place. But we're not going back. We have been altered by the American experience. We are Westerners. We must learn. When you go to school, you must learn world history. You must learn world literature. You must learn European history. You must master math, physics, science. You must excel in all of those subjects. They are yours. This idea that to be smart is to act white, to speak English, perfect English, is to talk white. That is a lie that must be banished in our community. Say amen, somebody. We have to start allowing our children to feel like they can just drift off into ignominy, into being mundane and mediocre, and that is to be identified as black. We are more than dancers and entertainers and athletes. You are scientists. You are astronauts. You are physicists. You are in and everything that America's ever been, inventors. You are that as well. Amen. And I hope we get that message over to us. Yes, we must become bilingual in America. You must learn Spanish. Yes, you need to learn German and French, and you need to learn Chinese. That needs to be a part of our experience. We need to stop pigeonholing ourselves and say, this is black and that's for other people. No, that's for all of us. I believe in total excellence. And here's the news that even some of our so-called white brothers and sisters need to understand. You're not going back to a segregated reality of the 1950s either. No, that world is long gone. You can stop bringing up happy days, psychops, and all that kind of stuff. It's not going to happen. You are as addicted to us as we are attached to you. Go look at a lot of the receipts of who's buying the jazz albums, who's buying the rap album. It's not just black youth and black people. No. They like Lionel Richie, Earth, Wind, Fire, Commodores, Boys to Me, and names from modern groups. I know they dating myself, but they love that black, so-called black music. They tried to stop it. They tried to stop Elvis. They tried to stop Chuck Berry. They tried to stop the guy who said a wop, bop, a loo, bop, a lot, bam, boom. Who's that? Little Richard. They tried to stop him, but you know what? They got infected by James Brown, Michael Jackson, and all the other great artists in the world. Muhammad Ali, name them all. They got infected by it. America is our home. This city is your home. And yes, it has problems. And we must stop cursing our home. The problem is the media. TV is a problem. Corporate America has a problem. Our justice system is discriminatory. It has a problem. The power elite continue to try to teach us in such a way to continue to get us to violate our own spirit, our mind, our bodies. They try to infect our bodies with genetically modified food. They try to infect our minds with poisonous images on TV like a virus. This is the matrix that we have to escape from. Our genes are being modified in the food. In all religions, they have been infected by this virus. And our politics has been corrupted by greed and exclusion. This is the reality of how we are being socialized through the media, through textbooks, through other avenues. And we must fight against that. It's at this point that we find ourselves like Neo in the Matrix. Innocence lost, reality check. America is not this mythical land where everybody's dreams is coming true. No, oppression is real. Racism is real. The call to conform and forget who you are is real. Danger is real, but fear is an illusion. This is the challenge that every child, adult, and all of us must choose. Like Daniel, like Neo, there are two doors. Either we're going to conform to the norm, or we're going to choose hope and create and imagine an opportunity that is not readily available to us. What am I saying, young people? You can choose to give up. You can choose to focus on the tragedy of Trayvon and say, I'm afraid to live because somebody's going to kill me. You can choose to focus on fear and death and drugs and gangs. You can make that choice, and you can drop out of school. You can say to yourself, the racist system is so against me because I'm black, because I'm poor. You can make that decision. You can choose to focus on the negative. You can focus on what they are saying and what they are planning and what they are doing. Notice in the verses before you, the king made a choice. King Ashpenaz made a choice. Everybody is making a choice. But in verse 8, a new choice is made. I won't lie to you. If you choose, young people, if you listen to me, and you choose to be excellent, and you choose greatness, and you choose power, there are no certificates. People will attack you. Yes. Even your own people who look like you will come against you. They will call you names. They will put you down for being smart and not popular. Yes, you will encounter persecution if you choose not to conform and be like what other people want you to be. Danger is real, but fear is an illusion. Lesson 2 says, the more sophisticated the game, the more sophisticated the opponent. We live in a very sophisticated society, and therefore, you got to evolve your spiritual will to a new level. And this brings me to lesson 3. You will only find your true opponent in the last place you'll look. Think about this. Daniel, as a young man, realized that the true opposition, his true opponent, really wasn't his name being changed. It really wasn't the socialization process that Nebuchadnezzar put upon him. It wasn't him being Hebrew and being separated from his homeland. His true opponent was his own self, his own fear, his own ignorance. What I'm saying to you is that you got to go beyond looking at other people and looking for them to be the solution to your problem. No. The scripture says Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's delicacy, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. In the midst of his circumstance and condition, what did Daniel do? He purposed in his heart. What's inside of you, young people? What's inside of you? What I tell you in the beginning, who you are? You are a divine being having a human experience. In times like these, when you must choose between tragedy and hope, you have to look within yourself, and you got to find something greater in you that's in the world. Daniel made a choice. He looked within, and he realized that his true opponent was his own fear to make a decision, his own fear to take responsibility for his life. I want you to understand that in every one of you, there is a divine king and queen. And the key thing that distinguishes and determines the difference between a king and a slave, kings make decisions. Slaves respond to decisions. David looked inside himself and he made a decision because he knew inside of him, no matter where you take me, no matter where you put me, I am that I am. I am a decision maker. Can you, my young brothers and sisters in here, can you make a decision? Can you make a decision? I say, can you make a decision? Or will you always be a victim, looking to blame someone else, looking for someone else to come and do for you what you should be able to do for yourself? Daniel determined what could go in his body, what could go through his mouth, because he got in touch with his heart. What did I tell you before? In the word disadvantage is the word advantage. And in every disadvantage is an advantage. The greatest gift you have is the power to decide, the power to choose. You can choose to try or not try. You can choose to learn or not learn. You can choose to give or not give. You don't need to know if it's going to work or not. That's not the issue. That's God's business. But you can take a leap of faith. You can make a decision. You have the power to choose. Daniel chose to be and not to be. He said, I will choose to exist. I will live. I will survive. I will overcome. I will achieve. Now you can choose today. You can choose hope and walk like President Obama. Or you can choose tragedy and let fear kill you as dead as Trayvon Martin is. That's your choice to make. Daniel chose the power to make a decision. Why? Because nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Now y'all should have been writing that down. Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. For at the moment of decision, your destiny is shaped. Harriet Tubman made a decision in the midst of slavery. Don't give me an excuse. Madam C.J. Walker, a born slave, made a decision to become a millionaire and became the first female millionaire in this country because she had an idea about black hair. Booker T. Washington, W.B. Du Bois made a decision to become educators of their people. Muhammad Ali made a decision to become the greatest of all time when he changed his name and his religion in an environment that did not understand what he was doing. Yet he made a decision that wasn't popular, but it was right. He made a decision not to support the Vietnam War, and look what time has shown. And today, he is one of the greatest, not just athletes of all time, he is the greatest man of all time because he had an idea to stick with his conviction. Young people, what do you believe in? What's in your heart? What are you willing to purpose before God? Oprah Winfrey made a decision, even though she was raped as a young girl. But she did not let her rape define her. And she today is one of the wealthiest women who has a television studio that has reshaped our understanding of spirituality. Nothing is more powerful than an idea whose time has come. My God, y'all should be jumping through the roof right now. But my point is that we have become so acculturated into oppression and burning other people that we don't recognize the gift and the glory in us. Dr. Mitchell Gibson, in his book, 9 Insights for a Happy and Successful Life, he states this. Research shows that most of our thoughts are negative. In fact, 77% to be exact are negative. But research also shows that 23% of our thoughts are positive and constructive. How many? 23%. We generate more than 14,950 positive thoughts per day. If only 1% of those happy and positive thoughts are insightful, life-changing, and brilliant, then each of us has almost every day 150 genius ideas that come across our mind. Listen, young people, listen, adults, what I'm saying. Every one of you is given by some angel a genius thought, an idea that is the answer to every question your mind and your soul has ever had. I can see right now a question mark over all y'all heads saying, well, why is it I don't know it? It's because that idea gets drowned out by all the negative thoughts that you entertain each and every day. You see what Daniel did? Instead of focusing on what had happened to him, like we thought that, but let me tell you what had happened. Instead of focusing on what had happened, he focused on what was possible. He had a genius idea. He said, he purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself. And he had this idea. Why don't I ask the man who's over me that I not eat the king's food or drink his wine? What a radical thought. What a radical thought. Where did he get that from? Because he chose to focus on God and not man. Daniel realized what I do with my mind, my spirit, and my body, that's my responsibility. And this is where I like what Dr. Gibson says in his book. Your innermost thoughts are unique to the universe. That's why I believe in teaching these young people meditation. We had a discussion this morning about prayer in school. And we always go around and say, they took prayer out of school. Big deal. But they didn't take silence out of school. You can go within yourself, every young person here, you can start your day off in meditation. You can go within yourself and you can find answers to the universe within you. Yeah. Yes. Therefore, I want to come to a close. I want to tell you a story, young people. There was a poor farmer who discovered that he had a goose that laid golden eggs. Every day, he would go into the barn and he would find golden eggs laid by his goose. And it made him a very rich man. But, as all people who are instantly rich and famous, he got impatient and greedy. And he had an idea that he was going to go and cut the goose open and get all the golden eggs that were there. But after he had cut the goose and cut the goose, he found that there were no golden eggs inside the goose. Now he had a greater problem. He has killed the goose that laid the golden eggs. What's the moral of the story, young people? Don't destroy your goose that lays your golden eggs. That's what I mean when I say the game, the global and mental enterprise. The game is to get you to destroy your own goose, to destroy your own spirit, your mind, and your body, to put you in such a condition and environment that you become so hopeless and so tragic and so mundane and mediocre that you take yourself out of the game by poisoning your body, by not developing your mind and not enriching your spirit. Lesson 1, you only get smarter by playing a smarter opponent. Lesson 2, the more sophisticated the game, the more sophisticated the opponent. Lesson 3, you will find your true opponent in the last place you'll look, within you. Therefore, I close with this final statement. Where there's a fire, there's going to be a flame. Where there's a flame, someone is going to get burned. But just because you get burned doesn't mean you're going to die. You have to get up and try and try and try. Where there's a flame, where there's a desire, there's going to be a flame. Where there's a flame, somebody's going to get burned. Just because you get burned doesn't mean you're going to die. You got to get up and try and try and try. You got to get up and try and try and try. You got to get up and try and try and try. You got to do what? You got to get up and try and try and try. Part 2 next week.